Hey Sam, this is Kenny calling from Berkeley, California. How you doing?
Kenny from Berkeley, California. I'm doing well. What's on your mind?
So, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to talk about Michael, um, because he had a really big impact on me. Um, Basically, I started out as one of those obnoxious Sam Harris loving little, 17-year-old. I have
Hmm.
a quote, quantitative normie twerps. That's what Michael said in 2018. And that's exactly what I was. And thanks to you guys in the MR and TMBS, shout out Matt Leck. Thanks for keeping that going. Um, really appreciate what you guys are doing. And you let me see the light.
Well, I mean,
Appreciate
tell
it.
me like what the mechanics of that were. Like how did you stumble across our shows?
Okay, so my parents are pretty conservative. My dad's a Trumpist. My mom is a never Trumper. Uh, it's a
Okay.
weird family dynamic.
Again, it
And
sounds like.
I had kind of been, sorry, you
No,
get
it
this
sounds
one?
it sounds like maybe a little tumultuous at home. How old are you, if
Violence
you don't
free.
mind me asking?
I'm just turned 24.
Okay, great. All right.
So I kind of was, that conservative bro that thought everyone in his high school was an idiot except for me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and very libertarian, very much. We don't need government. Government is just one of those inefficiencies in our society. And then I guess it was really through the high school education system and public education and actually having good educators that gave a crap, that started to pull me out of that. And then really it was the 2016 campaign with Bernie where I started listening and I thought, this makes a lot of sense. So I started digging more into leftism. I kind of, I've listened to the Young Turks. Kyle Kalinske kind of floated around, but you guys really
Well, how did you
hit the
how
nail
did
on
you
the
come
head.
to start listening to any of these shows? Was it just by chance, or were you actively seeking, like, I want to watch a lefty YouTube or?
I guess more the latter. Yeah, it was like I want to know what this is all about because I had only ever heard that perspective from my parents, and I wanted that, you know, that crazy liberal perspective.
Interesting. So you were a seeker, anyways. It wasn't like you stumbled across this. It was like you were looking for it.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things. The YouTube algorithm kind of blurs the lines between a stumbler and a seeker, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's
But
why I ask, because I'm very curious about that, because people sometimes, um, uh, give me grief. I get emails now and then. I mean, it's fine. I doesn't that's I appreciate actually people questioning, how we what we do on the show at different times. Like, why are you spending so much time on like the Shapiro or this guy or that guy? Or and part of it is um what your story is. And part of it is like I one of the things that we have to do is get into the algorithm in such a way that if somebody is watching a lot of Ben Shapiro, we pop up. And that's the only way that we can. I mean, this is the advantage of the form of media that we're using here. Because we were just talking about, like, you go up to Buffalo and you come into, you go into the pizza place and they just got Fox News just playing on a loop. And then you walk out of the pizza place, you get into your car, and it's all right wing talk radio, and nothing can pierce that. But the difference for younger people, but also, there's also a cohort of people up into their 60s and 70s who watch YouTube. The difference is, I'm not, I think people are more or less settled at that age for the most part. The difference is that here we have the ability to actually to cross metaphors, to sneak into that pizza parlor and change the channel, once in a while.
Hmm.
And so that, like, people look up and they're like, wait a second, that's not Fox News. What is that? And that's also what was nice about radio too, is that sometimes people are like, it's a commercial, turn the dial, but there's no presence
Right.
on radio. So that is it. And so I appreciate the call, because on some level that validates this theory. I mean, every in my mind, every thanks for the call, but the different YouTubers, different shows have different roles in the left ecosphere, and partly you settle on that based upon what you're interested in, and then after a while, what you're good at and what you're finding success at, and when here's an email I got yesterday from listener James. Just wanted to write a quick thank you for your content, especially the clips I first stumbled across on libertarianism, Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro. I thought my perspective might be helpful for further shedding light on these guys and what their followers think. I came across Shapiro as part of the Never Trumper movement. I wanted to vote conservative because of pro-life issues. Pretty much exclusively, I found Shapiro when he came out against Trump for the guy's plainly immoral character. I think that move gave him a ton of credibility at the time, together with leaving Breitbart, especially with evangelicals. And as a result, I was casually listening to him since the election. Over the last year, however, I thought it was becoming more and more obvious how slippery he was being about manipulating his former positions. And basically, whenever Shapiro says, as I say, you can tell he's about to lie or stretch his prior positions. And he goes on, I'm grateful for your content. And honestly, Vic Berger's for making it clear when these guys dance around their positions. I'm honestly surprised. And so this is another example of the efficacy of that. There are other shows. It's not worth it. They're doing something different, but on some level, I'm quite convinced that for a long time, less so because he's where he's positioned himself now, but a guy like Rubin or Sam Harris is a gateway to the right.
Right.
And on some levels, on that spectrum, I want to be a gateway to the left. And, one of the ways you do it is you just basically insert yourself into the stream of information that people are getting.
And pick fights with them, because then they respond to you, and then someone, they'll feature your response on their show, and then suddenly someone on the right who may not be aware of your show gets you have a better argument, frankly. So suddenly brains start cracking open, and they have much larger audiences for the most part. That's the scary thing, as we all know, is that they're funded, they're organized.
I mentioned yesterday, Ben Shapiro's views on Facebook are dwarf CNN and the New York Times combined. Yeah. And that is a function, I am quite convinced, of enormous amounts of advertising.
Right.
And probably some bots and some gaming of the thing, and because the way they're funded, there is a willingness by their funders to lose money.
That's right.
And that's because their agenda is
and one good reason to have Facebook under some sort of public oversight, whether you call it nationalizing or whatever, is that we would have insight into, is this about the algorithm or is this about a payola situation? Right. Why are 55 million people seeing Ben Shapiro's dumb comments? Right? It'd be nice to know exactly what that is. Is it the algorithm? Or is he just that popular?
I am also I am in the camp of I just don't think you can nationalize things like that, because I think it just brings up all sorts of problems. But I think if you break that company into a bunch of smaller pieces and do not allow them to have the market dominance, Ben Shapiro can win on Facebook. But if that means only 7 million views, and there's other places,
well, wouldn't they have to get rid of video then? Wouldn't that be what breaking up that means?
No. Breaking up that means that look, because of the way that they target, because of their aggregating Instagram, because they have all this data, Facebook is looking constantly to maximize their profit. And so you're allowing multiple different data streams to converge, and so that you're controlling the universe. And if they don't have control of the universe, then someone it doesn't matter if it's pay to play. It doesn't matter if Ben Shapiro is huge on what is that right-wing Twitter, Flub or Dab or whatever it is. Gab. And it doesn't matter, right? That's fine. It's just that they can game the system with Facebook because Facebook profits off of people gaming it.
Right.
and that is part of the problem. If you nationalize it, right, then you I mean, I don't know what, I'm not even sure what nationalizing it means in this context.
And
But
it's not realistic. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
I don't know if anything's going to happen, but from a theoretical standpoint, then you're getting into a lot of like First Amendment rights that I think are become very dodgy. And then who
owns the data?
Be a government agency that is going to? But my argument is
Messaging.
You don't collect the data, because if it's not profitable for you to do, if it's not a profit venture,
right,
that data is irrelevant.
I don't even just mean data like about people's lives, not like, they have the dating app now, they have the marketplace. I'm not even talking about that data. I mean just the content, like having the messages of who's monitoring the messages. Suddenly it's the government, Facebook. I mean, I don't trust either one of them, but it's very real. And
I would be concerned with having the government have control over it. What I would like to do is make them a player so that they don't have as much, there's not as much control vested there.
There just needs to be, proper oversight. And I think that what you're saying about being a monopoly enterprise, what are you, a marketplace? Or are you, whenever they're getting attacked, they use one of their aspects of the as the excuse. So, we're not journalists, we're actually a marketplace. Oh, we're not a marketplace, we're actually a free speech platform. Like, what is it?
That's like the game that Limbaugh would play. Like, I'm an entertainer. I'm not providing any news. I'm just a jag-off comedian. You can't take anything I say seriously, even though that's the only thing I'm very serious. Here is Robin Reno. Looks to me like both campaigns are after the white boomer woman vote.
That's right.
Biden's ads are like pharmaceutical commercials during The View when Gammy can still ride a bike playing mini golf. Trump simply plays to their extensive racisms. Honestly, for boomer white women, it's a draw. But doesn't Biden's entire campaign feel like a boomer movie where some old dudes can still rob the bank or fly the shuttle or some dumb crap, but in the end they get to kiss the girl and still show the young kids how it's done? There's like a sort of like a Walter Matthau, George Burns quality to the whole enterprise. They, of course, I think we're a silent generation, but that I understand the sentiment.
A buddy movie.
I mean, look, if Biden can win older voters, that's a real problem for Donald Trump.
He basically needs to win. I think looking at the numbers from last week, he needs to win a solid majority of boomer white women and just enough of a majority of boomer white men. And if you look at Biden's ads, like the Corvette thing where he was, looking at cleaning up his Corvette and doing this. I mean, that wasn't targeted at us. That wasn't targeted at progressives. And progressives get mad, angry, rightfully so, that this is what he's messaging on. But it's because he's speaking to this little tiny chunk of voters that are extremely expensive. I mean, the amount of money that they're putting per voter, and it's a very small group of people that are, frankly, very unreliable. That's what drives me crazy. It is cheaper to reach your base, but God forbid you actually move on a small set of issues that would anger your donors who are paying.
Well, I don't think it's just donors, frankly. I mean, look, if Hillary Clinton could get away with 55 buy-in to Medicare, Joe Biden could.
Right.
I think it's like their whole game plan is we're going to give Donald Trump nothing to work with. Nothing. We're going to we're going to have such rounded edges on all our policy positions that it's going to be impossible to define us. And all it's going to be left is I'm a good guy. First off, the Corvette doesn't work with me because I'm a IROC Z guy. That's it. Period.
What?
Number one cruising car in Worcester.
You're not the target audience yet.
I know.
You're almost there.
Pretty close.
You're almost there.